Up first and new tonight, sexual abuse at one of Houston's top schools. Today, the Kinkaid School Board of Trustees revealed 15 students are likely the victims of 3 former staff members. Lauren Tallarico is live at Kinkaid tonight with the internal investigation that is now in the hands of authorities. Lauren.
Mia, the alleged abuse happened between the 1960s and the 1990s, so we are not talking about current students here. So far, 15 students have come forward, but investigators think there are more than that.
For 113 years, the Kinkaid School mission has been to prepare kids for a bright future. But today, it revealed the dark findings of what happened in the past. Last year, the school announced an internal investigation after a former student came forward to report sexual abuse. It was led by a private investigative firm called T&M Protection Resources. Over 15 months, 14 more victims came forward, all believed to be the victims of 3 former faculty members. Their names have not been released yet, as so far no charges have been filed. But the first abuser, in the late 1960s to early 70s, is accused of sexual misconduct with 8 students between 10 and 13 years old. The second, in the late 80s to early 90s, accused of sexual misconduct or attempted sexual assault with 6 students between 14 to 17 years old. And the third, in the 90s, accused of having a sexual relationship with a 16-year-old. Investigators also found the school's senior leadership at the time did not immediately fire 2 of the 3 individuals after they learned of the abuse. One alleged abuser has since died. The other 2 are no longer with the school. In the letter to alumni, Kinkaid writes, "This behavior is simply not tolerated at Kinkaid today. We as a school community can and will do better to protect our students."
I'm told the internal investigation has been handed over to law enforcement, who will decide if charges will be filed. If any other former students have information they'd like to report, we have the contact information that you need to reach out to on our website, khou.com. Mia.
All right, Lauren Tallarico reporting. Thank you.